It's very interesting for me to study the dynamics between individuals. And so I like to read comment interactions between people and places where people have written conversations with one another. I saw something which was going along with what my thoughts have been the past few days. So a woman left a comment who said she went with her husband to get chemotherapy treatments. She didn't have cancer, but he did. So they were in this chemo room with about 17 other people. She said the most disturbing thing to her was that no one talked to one another. They were all either listening to music or reading or whatever. She said no one talked, and her conclusion after observing all these people was that it felt wrong to her. I've been having some similar thoughts lately about type and how we understand one another and how we don't understand one another. And after reading this woman's words, it was obvious she could not fathom that there were people out there undergoing chemotherapy who wouldn't want to talk. In her mind, she wanted to talk to other people, that it would make her feel better. I find it interesting that she couldn't understand this, that there were people who wanted to do this privately and quietly. I don't even know this woman, but you can tell that she has a very difficult time comprehending that there are people who don't think or feel like she does. I see this a lot in our society. It's very difficult for us to understand how another person operates. I think what's most important is that we simply understand that other people may not think, feel, or approach life in the same way we do. I think so many problems could be circumvented in life if we just got that very basic concept. Because it's obvious many aren't even at that basic level of understanding. And just to be clear, I'm not always there either, because I'm guilty of what I am accusing others of. I do this too, but at least I'm aware of it. And that's what I'm kind of striving for in my words here. I think that we all need to be aware of it. I'm not saying that we should be best friends with everyone in the world. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that at the very basic level, we should accept the fact that other people out there don't process things in the same way we do. And this is why I find typology so valuable as a tool, because it does help us to understand that. If you ask me, I think the biggest divide, from the way I see it anyway, is the divide between the intuitive and the sensor realm. I don't think there's so much of a problem between introvert and extrovert, or thinking and feeling, whichever we prefer. I think the biggest divide is between sensor and intuitive, because it truly is like speaking two different languages. And I believe the biggest misunderstandings are between these two worlds. But even saying that, this doesn't mean I don't appreciate sensors, because I do very much. And something happened the other day which really drove this point home for me, because I'd finished a piece of needlework and I stitched it on a piece of perforated paper, which is a very thick paper that has holes that you can stitch in. It was very popular during Victorian times. But anyway, I had finished this piece and I wanted something else to be done with it. And my one sister, I have two sisters, one is an intuitive and one is a sensor. Well, the one that's a sensor is an excellent seamstress who quilts and does all sorts of needlework. So I gave it to her and asked her if she could finish it for me in some way that I could display it in my home. So she did, and she sent it back to me. And I was very impressed, because what she did was take the perforated paper and combined it with fabric to finish it into this beautiful wall hanging. Now, I appreciated it. I thought it was beautiful, and I respected her skill in being able to do such a thing, mostly because it's kind of outside of my wheelhouse in a way. I don't really have an interest in that sort of thing, that, the finishing aspect of it. So I appreciated it, and I don't want to say my appreciation only goes so far, but if I finish the story, you'll see what I mean. So I took a picture of the finish, and I shared it with an acquaintance of mine who is also a sensor. And she wrote back after I sent her the picture, and she went crazy over it. She said, "I never thought to combine perforated paper and fabric together." And she thought it was absolutely genius. And I realized in that moment that my sensor acquaintance was blown away by the fact that my sister did this thing. And I thought to myself, how interesting, because it's the same way I am blown away when I hear someone speaking and I can take something from that and make it my own and ruminate on it. It's the same kind of thing. I'll think, wow, that was genius. I love what that person said. I love that, and it was exactly the same thing that happened with my sister and my sensor acquaintance, but it was in the sensor world. It was the sensor dynamic. So I enjoyed observing that because it helped drive the point home that sensors think outside the box. We're not the only ones as intuitives who think outside the box. Sensors do it too, but they do it in their own way. And we can't judge sensors by our intuitive standards any more than they can judge us by their sensor standards. It literally is two different worlds with two different schema. And we don't necessarily value that or appreciate it always any more than they appreciate the way we think outside of the box. So there is a definite gulf between the two. So I guess in all my words here today, to bring it full circle back to that woman at the beginning who couldn't fathom that people wouldn't want to be quiet in that chemotherapy room, I think we have to understand that people do see the world differently than we do. And that's okay and very necessary. We have to open our eyes to that and just strive for this basic understanding. We have to realize that people don't see the world in the same way we do, because that woman couldn't see that or understand that. And this goes a long way towards getting along with people in general, if we could all have that mindset. Again, we're not all going to be best friends with one another, but we need to have this basic understanding so we can work together and live together in community. That we can understand that we all have our strengths. Each of us has our own strengths. As an intuitive, I might not be able to completely understand how a sensor views the world, but I should have my eyes open to the fact that they do have their strengths and they do have a valuable place in this world. I realize it's kind of idealistic thinking to hope we could all see it this way, because I know there are so many out there who do not, and I see it almost every day. But those of us who do understand this have a responsibility in it. In other words, it's up to us to gently point it out to others when they demonstrate that lack of basic understanding. Maybe just a gentle sentence or two when you find yourself in a situation where you could say something. Just a reminder to them that not everyone sees things the way they do. And if everyone did, the world wouldn't be a very good place. We should be looking for opportunities where we can try to open another's eyes in this way. It's very important, and I believe this kind of mindset would go a long way towards better understanding between us as human beings.